Good morning. Last time we learned something about irrational numbers. But before proceeding, let us recall what we have learned in Standard 9. We have learned how to represent irrational numbers on the number line. Let us recapitulate. We draw a number line. There will be a 0. To the left are negative numbers, and to the right we have positive numbers. And therefore, 0 is neither positive nor negative and is called a non-negative number. Let us represent, because the number line only consists of integers and fractions, decimals as well. We will not be able to represent a root 2 on the number line directly. What do? We draw the same length perpendicular to the number line. By that I mean that this length must be equal to this length, and the size will be 1 unit. Now that unit can be centimeter, can be inch, can be meter, whichever is convenient. But if you ask me, I would prefer to tell you that whenever you draw a number line, use the inch scale on your foot rulers. Now we connect 0 with this. Let us name it A, B, C. Now we know that this is a right angle, and therefore by Pythagoras we get AD square plus BC square equal to AC square, that is 1 square plus 1 square is equal to AC square. 1 plus 1 equals AC square. 2 equals AC square, and therefore the root of 2 will be equal to the root of AC square, that is AC will be equal to root 2, and therefore this is root 2. So if we put our pointer of our rounders here, measure this accurately, and draw an arc to intersect the number line, we will get our root 2 representation somewhere here. Same way, draw one more unit, connect this, and when you drop it here, you will get root 3, and so on. This may not be much useful to you, however, to draw a line segment of the size will be very important. How do we draw the line segment of the size root 2? We take AD to be 1 unit. Now when we say 1 unit, it is not necessary that AD will be only 1 inch or 1 centimeter. It can be 4 centimeters. We can take 4 centimeters equal to 1 unit. It can be 10 centimeters. 10 centimeters as 1 unit. So we say 1 unit. The size will depend upon our own convenience. However, when we draw a perpendicular to B, AB should be equal to BC. So if we have taken 1 centimeter, BC will be 1 centimeter. We take AB as 10 inches, BC will also be 10 inches. And we draw this as root 2 units. What about root 3? To AC we draw a perpendicular with 1 unit. And now AD will be root 3 units. What about root 4? I will draw it separately here. This is obviously root 4 units. Then when we draw 1 unit here, and then when we connect this, we get this as root 5 units. Root 6, root 7, root 8, and then 3 units will be root 9 units. Why am I telling you to draw the length of a line segment equal to root 2 or root 3 or root 5 or whatever root you want? Because many a times in the construction question during the year, you might be required to draw a line segment having these units. They will tell you to construct a triangle with AB equal to root 3 centimeters or root 7 centimeters. BC and AC will be of some other form. And you will be told to measure the angles. So sometimes during construction, some teachers are very fond of telling you to draw the line segment of length, irrational number. Now we again recall what is a raised to 1 upon m equal to. A raised to 1 upon m, if you recollect, is equal to the nth root of a. You have learned this in your lower standards. What you haven't learned is what if a is raised to the power n upon m. There is nothing to get confused about. Always the numerator, the denominator will be the nth root of a and the numerator will be nth power of a. This rule is many a times useful. Let us, and we know this as a matter of fact, that when we square root 3, it is equal to 3. But have we ever asked ourselves, why is the square of root 3 equal to 3? Because we cannot multiply root 3 with root 3, because root 3 has a value which cannot be written on a paper. Then how are we sure that root 3 squared is equal to 3. If we use these laws, square root of 3 can be written as 3 raised to 1 upon 2. We square this on both sides. We get root 3 squared there, and what we get is, remember the law, a raised to m, the whole raised to n is equal to a raised to mn, which can be written as a raised to m multiplied by n. So we have 1 upon 2 multiplied 2. The 2's cancel out, we get 3 raised to 1, which is 3. Fairly easy to do it. Now we are going to cube it. Let us cube root 3. This can be written as 3 raised to 1 upon 3. Because it is a square root, 3 is raised to 1 upon 2, and the whole thing is raised to 3. This will give us root 3 the whole cube equal to 3 raised to 1 upon 2 into 3, which will be equal to 3 raised to 3 upon 2. And therefore we get this form. Now what will be the actual answer of this? Let us do it. It will be square root of 3 raised to 3, which will be square root of 27. Now this 27 can be factorized as 9 into 3. Now remember, 9 is a perfect square, so this can be written as square root of 9 multiply square root of 3, we get 3 into root 3, and our final answer is 3 root 3. All you have to remember are these two laws. We can go the other way around as well. What will be the fifth root of 32? Immediately it becomes confusing, but when we use those two laws, we know this will be 32 raised to 1 upon 5. 32, however, is 16 into 2 raised to 1 upon 5. 16 is 4 square into 2 raised to 1 upon 5. 4 is 2 square the whole square into 2 the whole raised to 1 upon 5. This is 2 raised to 4 into 2 raised to 1 the whole raised to 1 upon 5. This is 2 raised to 4 plus 1 the whole raised to 1 upon 5. Remember the law, a raised to n into a raised to n is equal to a raised to n plus n. So we have 2 raised to 5 the whole raised to 1 upon 5. The log n 2 raised a raised to n the whole raised to n. We have 5 into 1 upon 5 and we have 2 raised to 1 which is 2. This is working out the other way around. If you do this properly and if you have understood this very properly, you should be able to do your first exercise in the textbook. So even before we end today's lecture, let me give you the homework. It will be exercise 1.1 of the textbook. Now we recall some more things that we have learned in the previous standards. We have learned about 2 types of decimals. Type 1 are called terminating, and for a decimal to be terminating, we require the denominator in the form of 2 raised to n into 5 raised to n. So remember, whenever the denominator has only 2 factors, we do not consider 1, 2 and 5, then it will be a terminating decimal. However, for any number to be a non-terminating decimal, any number in the factor which is other than 2 and 5, and the fraction will be a non-terminating decimal. Now in non-terminating decimals we have 2 types of decimals. One are called recurring decimals and the other ones are called non-recurring decimals. What are recurring decimals? The example 1 upon 3, which is 0.333333. And what are non-recurring decimals? 21 upon 7. We don't find anything, any sequence recurring even till the 3000th place of the decimal. So any factor of the denominator which is other than 2 and 5, any number, 3, remember 4 is 2 into 2, 5 is 5 raised to 1. 6, however, is 2 into 3 and we get 3 as an additional factor. It will become a non-terminating decimal. Non-terminating decimal can be recurring or non-recurring. We also have learned how to convert 0.333 into 1/3, and let me recall it for you today. We want to convert 0.33 recurring into a fraction. How do we do it? We say let 0.3 recurring equal to x, call it equation 1. We want to bring one decimal onto the left side of the decimal, and we say 10 into 0.3 recurring will be equal to 10x. 3.3 recurring will be equal to 10x, correct? Equation 2. 3 recurring we get 9x equal to 3x equal to 3/9. On simplification we get 1/3. When we work it out the other way around, simple, is simply dividing 1 by 3. What if we want to convert 1/3 into decimals? We say 1 divided by 3, 0 to the point 0, 3, 9, 1, 0, 3, 9, 1, 0, and we get 0.33 recurring. So we have to be careful that these things are going to be useful to us. I hope you all have submitted your homework of the last period that I have given you. In the next period, we will be solving the first exercise of our textbook. However, for your today's homework, you are supposed to keep it ready. Once we solve it together, all your difficulties will be solved. If you have any questions, you may send it to your teachers. I will be talking to them and they will be telling me about your difficulties, and we will even solve them during the next period. That will be all for the day. Thank you.